Representatives from almost every country in the world are gathering in Azerbaijan for the annual UN summit on the climate crisis. Starting from Monday, the 29th session, known as COP29, will last for 12 days, and during this time, world leaders and experts will discuss ways to protect the environment. TRT World's Hassan Abdullah is there.
Azerbaijan's capital, Baku, is set to host heads of states and governments, as well as ministers and technical experts from around the world. The conference of the parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or COP29, first formed nearly 3 decades ago. The primary topic on this year's agenda is cutting down global carbon emissions. Among the participating leaders is Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
We will accelerate the green transformation process in our industry with the climate law. Our work continues on establishing an emissions trading system. We will support the transformation of our industry and increase our competitiveness by encouraging all kinds of innovations that reduce our carbon footprint.
Turkey has set a net zero carbon emissions target for 2053. But for some countries, embarking on a greener path is more challenging. A case in point is Azerbaijan, where oil and gas account for nearly 75% of the country's GDP and 90% of its exports. The government here says it's working to reduce the carbon footprint. But with such heavy reliance on fossil fuels, it's easier said than done. Azerbaijan seeks to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2050. However, many representatives from the Global South say some of the biggest polluters are Western nations who don't practice what they preach. US President-elect Donald Trump has earlier promised to take his country out of the Paris Climate Agreement again. He had done so after his first election as well.
Donald Trump has a specific strategy for the United States. He thinks that United States shouldn't be committed itself to the restrictions of this regime, but it has been supportive of other countries, developed and developing countries, to contribute to this process.
At COP29, delegates from around the world will once again negotiate international agreements and commitments to combat the climate crisis and ways to offer more support to the developing countries. Many here are wondering if the process will suffer in the coming years with the rise of right-wing populism and climate crisis deniers, especially with US President-elect Donald Trump repeatedly calling climate change a hoax. Hassan Abdullah, TRT World, Baku.
Hassan Abdullah joins us live from Baku now. Hi Hassan, firstly, what are some of the main goals of this year's summit, and what are the main challenges in reaching new funding at COP29?
Well, Tayyip, I've been talking to quite a few delegates here, especially delegates from various African countries, and they have been talking about their concerns and their priorities. So, for example, they're saying that one of the issues they hope is going to be addressed, at least to a certain extent, at this particular summit is the recurring issue of pledges versus reality. So, for example, you've got developed countries that have pledged around $100 billion a year for the developing countries.